Fanatic Best of Podcasts are presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app.
B-Pod Studios.
The Mike Missinelli Show.
The Phillies have acquired a couple of pitchers. Ian Kennedy. Ian Kennedy's been a long-time starter in the big leagues, and I guess he went to the pen late in his life. He's 36 years old. I wonder about his velocity. I'm looking at his velocity. At one point, he was struggling to throw 90. I think he's kicked up that velocity a little bit this year as the closer for the Texas Rangers. But I admit I haven't seen a lot of Texas Ranger baseball this year. And they also got Kyle Gibson, a starter who's having a good year this year, and normally he's just kind of a mediocre starter. Kyle Gibson's 33, Ian Kennedy is 36. But let's get some numbers on these guys, because there are some advanced numbers that would help out evaluating these two. And it's good to talk to our man who we usually just talk to during football season. Always good to chat with the great Paul Hembekides. You know him as Hembo from the ESPN show Get Up. He's on the Comcast Business Hotline. Hello, Hembo. How's your summer?
Mikey Miss, my summer is going outstanding, and I have to say, I am a little bit surprised that the callers aren't a little bit more juiced up about the Major League Baseball trade deadline. Best I can tell, I mean, at least from a national perspective, this is about as exciting a deadline as we've had, at least in recent years. There's a number of stars being traded, lots of things going down here, down to the wire. But I think what the Phillies just did is super significant, candidly, and given the shape of the National League East right now, could make a good bit of difference.
Okay, let's crunch the numbers then. Let's first of all talk about Kyle Gibson, who basically is a 4.5 ERA guy most of his career, and this year having a decent year. So tell me about him. He's a pitcher who I can tell pitches to contact.
He does. He's not the kind of new age pitcher, Mikey Miss, who's going to induce a lot of swing and miss, which is obviously what you want in an ideal world, and that's obviously what the Phillies keep striving for organizationally. But this is a guy that does eat innings. He averages about 6 innings per start. He's amongst the league leaders in that statistic. Right now, his ERA is 55% above the league average. He's having a great season. I mean, he was an all-star this season. So Kyle Gibson is definitely someone who's going to be able to eat innings. And if he were the only pitcher that the Phillies were able to acquire, I think he'd really be killing two birds with one stone, because hopefully what they can do is reshape their rotation in some sense. I've been dying to see Vince Velasquez in the bullpen, as we all have for a long time. Who knows what they'll wind up doing now that they have Gibson.
I've been dying to see him in somebody else's bullpen, frankly. But go ahead. Yeah.
Vince Velasquez was put on this earth to pitch in somebody else's bullpen. That's my feeling on it. But also, Kyle Gibson's not a straight rental. Kyle Gibson's a guy who's under contract for next season as well for $7 million, and is something of a good value. And here's what's different between Kyle Gibson this year and any other season in his career. He started to incorporate a cutter a lot more, so he's keeping the baseball off the barrel. So for a pitcher like him, who's just not going to be able to throw cheese and miss a ton of bats, he is doing a really good job of that. Now, the Phillies aren't making a splash here. This is not Jose Barrios. This is not Craig Kimbrell. This is not a splash. This is not Max Scherzer. This is not a splash move. But you have Zach Wheeler and you have Aaron Nola, both pitching well this season, so you didn't need that. Kyle Gibson's someone that you could feel reasonably good about giving the ball to every fifth day. And as the Phillies are fortunate enough to make the playoffs, which is still something of a pipe dream, you don't feel bad about handing him the ball in Game 3 of a playoff series. He's not going to get blown up. He's a veteran pitcher on a reasonable contract this year and next, having the best season of his career and throwing the ball pretty well.
Okay, let's go to Kennedy. What are the velocity numbers on him?
So he's sitting 94 right now. He is seen something of a career renaissance now that he's been in the bullpen. 94. He's not, once you get to the pen, as you know, Mike, you don't have to worry about your third and fourth pitches as much. He's fastball, he's hook, and that's been good enough this season to be a very, very effective reliever for Texas. He's got 16 saves. He's only blown one, and he's really sort of found himself again. He's not going to. We're not talking about Craig Kimbrell here. We're not talking about Aroldis Chapman. We're not talking about Josh Hader, but the Phillies, beggars can't be choosers, right? And at this point, I mean, he immediately becomes, if not the Phillies' best reliever among them, with experience closing games at least this year. You feel reasonably good about it. So, I mean, look, neither of these moves are super splashy, but the Rangers made a lot of sense because they had a starter and they had a reliever. So what I'm hoping for is that Gibson, like you said, can occupy that spot in the rotation and shape that out a little bit more cleanly, and that you feel decent about handing the ball to Ian Kennedy on the back end, who, like you said, is a veteran. His velocity is up this year. He's learned to pitch in this role a lot more effectively, and this was obviously the Phillies' number one need. In innings 7, 8, 9 this season, the Phillies have allowed the second most runs in all of baseball, only the Diamondbacks, one of the worst teams of all time, have allowed more. So if you can get a little bit more length out of your starters, and Gibson helps you in that regard, and you feel reasonably good about handing the ball to Ian Kennedy at the end of a game, so every time Joe Girardi's walking out there, he doesn't feel like he's avoiding a minefield. All of a sudden, the Phillies have a reasonably good shot here the last 2 months of the season, like I've been preaching on the national radio show here, given how easy their schedule is.
The Mike Missinelli Show.
UFC 265 is this weekend, and DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of UFC, is offering 100-1 odds on a punch being landed during either co-main events. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and sign up using code FANATIC to turn $1 into $100 in free credits when you bet on any co-main event fighter to win and a punch is landed in either fight. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Restrictions apply in partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
97.5 The Fanatic.
Okay. All right. See, I don't agree with anything that you just said. I can't dispute the numbers. I can't. But the premise here is, here's what they've done. Desperation. They've made desperation greater than reality. Yeah, it's true that they have an innings eater now. They only have 3 starters. How in the world, and with Eflin's problems, how are you then going to win enough games with only 3 starters to overtake somebody who's ahead of you? So my question then is, what's the point? What is the point? Washington saw the light and they go, we're out. This team is going to hang in there with this?
I get it. Look, this feels very Ed Wadey to me, at least. That's what this sort of feels like. The Phillies are doing the soft buy. I understand why, what you want as a fan base is you want to see them do what the Nationals did, or you want to see them go all in. The Phillies have been the definition of mediocrity for 3 years now, and this year especially. But let me try and talk you into this, okay? Right now, the Phillies have played about the most difficult schedule in baseball among any teams that have a 500 record, all right? So they're hanging in there okay, given the injuries and given the fact that they've played the hardest part of their schedule. They have the easiest schedule in all of baseball remaining when you consider the record of their opponents, okay? So that's, in other words, the Phillies might be a game or two better than their overall record might indicate. Maybe we'll dream on it and say that maybe gets you to something like 84 or 85 wins in a perfect world. I understand why that wouldn't freak you out. But the Mets are a team right now that is essentially a 500. The Mets have a losing record over the last 45 games. We have no idea when they'll see Francisco Lindor again. Jacob deGrom's arm injury is a major issue for them. The Atlanta Braves are playing without Ronald Acuna Jr., thus they're really not a team that I feel is a legitimate threat in this division either. Almost by default, I understand why Dave Dombrowski looks at this thing and says, yeah, we just can't sell, or we at least have to buy to some extent. I agree with you. These aren't the kinds of moves that are likely to catapult the Phillies to win their division in and of themselves. They're going to have to get lucky, and they're going to have to hit better.
But listen, they haven't been able to overwhelm bad teams. We're rounding it off that because they have an easy schedule that they're going to generate all these W's. They haven't been able to do that all year.
I get it. But look, all that I'm saying is this. The outlook in the second half of the season is favorable. So my question is, if you're running the club, are you willing to give up now or just stand pat essentially and not do anything and live in this no man's land? To me, that's worse than doing that's
I would have done exactly what Washington did.
So who are you trading then?
I would have traded Nola. I would have traded Hoskins to somebody who wanted to bat. I would have moved McCutchen to the American League. That's what I would have done.
That's crazy.
Not crazy. It's not crazy. Nola's value is never going to be higher. He's a guy who's he's up and down. He's not a 2 anymore even.
I think Nola's a 2. I think you're right. You could have gotten a lot for him. But there's no way that you can convince that team or that fan base that's selling off right now when you're 4 games out of a division. I'm not talking about the wild card.
Dude, believe me, listen. I live in Philadelphia, okay? Mm-hmm. The people are not excited about them staying in the race. We run all kinds of polls every day. They don't really care that they're in the race. They look at this team as a team that's mediocre. They're not excited about them winning a division.
I get it.
Well, if you got them in that spot, then this is the perfect time to rebuild.
I get it. This feels like a team without a future to me, too. I'm sitting here, too. I watch this team play every single day, and I'm not inspired by them either. What I'm saying is, if you're 4 games out of your division, I'm not talking about the wild card here. We just saw the Yankees trade heaven and earth to get a couple guys to try and become the second wild card team in the American League. You're not in a position right now where you can justify selling. You have too many good pieces. You just do. You can't sell when you're 4 games out of the division. The Phillies are a couple of Mets injuries away or a good week or two injury away from having a chance to compete in a playoff series.
You can sell if you have foresight. That's when you can sell. And if you want to be conned by this fact that you're 4 out, you have to go on winning streaks to make up ground. This team has not proven that they can go on any winning streak. So my foresight is to say, screw the 4 games. I know what this team's really about. That's why you got to have proactive management here.
Yeah, that proactive management is best if you're going to change your organizational strategy or direction. That's something that you have to do in the winter. You can't do that mid-season when your team is in the thick of it. I know it doesn't feel like the Phillies are in the thick of it, but by default, the division stinks.
Yeah, well, this is where you and I get off the subway because I don't think they're in the thick of it. Your definition of the thick of it is different than my definition.
All I'll say is this. Kyle Gibson and Ian Kennedy make the Phillies a better ball club for the rest of the season. That, I think, is indisputable. And the Phillies should have a reasonable chance, based upon the schedule and based upon the additions, to have a shot at the Mets. That, I think, in and of itself is enough to justify buying and definitely not selling off. If you decide to stand pat, that's one argument so that you don't trade away any future assets. And Spencer Howard is a reasonably good future asset. Reasonable minds can differ on this. But, a month from now, if the Phillies can have a decent month, and they have the talent to do it, and they have a bunch of veterans, too. If you start to sell off, Mike, like what you're doing is, hitting the reset button on a rebuild when you didn't even really give this thing a chance to be seen through. Phillies fans endured 5 years.
All right, listen, okay, I get that point. See you through. And then next year, what do you got? What do you got when it doesn't come through? Then where are you next year?
You're in a worse spot. But the whole point of this thing is to win if you have a chance. And right now, the Phillies have a chance.
All right,
that's all I'm saying.
All right, Hembo, it's always a pleasure. We will talk to you coming up soon with football season, brother.
All right, yes, sir. You're a good man.
All right, there he is, Paul Hembakidis, Comcast Business Hotline.